Welcome to Attendance and Schedules at Home, brought to you by MNPS Social Emotional Learning Department, Department of Support Services. My name is Tramita Norman, and I am a Family Involvement Specialist for the district. I will begin by talking to you about attendance matters all day, every day. Well, is attendance required? Yes, it is by state law. It is mandatory for children 6 to 17 to attend school each and every day. How will attendance be recorded for students attending remotely? Well, students must log into their distance learning platform each and every instructional day to be counted present. And to accommodate for asynchronous learning opportunities, which are when they're not live with their teacher and they're just working on classwork. Students have until 11:59 p.m. to log in. Pre-K students will be using Flipgrid, and K through 12 students will be using Schoology to log in. In addition, students must be actively engaged in their learning opportunities. Well, what does that look like? Submitting assignments on time, completing assessments that the teachers are giving them, participating in online classroom discussions. Sometimes teachers will ask the student to answer in the chat room, or they may say, raise your hand and speak out loud and unmute themselves. Each of those ways are ways to engage online, as well as interacting with your teacher by answering and asking questions. So what if your child is ill and can't participate remotely? Well, students who are unable to actively participate due to illness, they're going to be coded as an excused absence, but they must and they will have the opportunity to make up their work when they return back to school. They have exactly 3 days when they return to submit their excuse notes. Parents, please ask your child's school for instructions on how to submit it. It might be a text message, an email, or even through their online learning platform. Now we will have Jessica Heacock, who will talk to us about the importance of scheduling.
Thank you, Tramita. I'm Jessica Heacock. I'm a behavior analyst on the behavior support team here in Metro. And yes, I'm here to talk about schedules. So the reason that schedules are important is it helps to structure the day. It increases predictability and reduces anxiety for students. So they know what's coming next, what's going to happen in their day. They can see all those different activities, and it increases independence as well. The first thing to consider when creating a schedule is presentation. Now, this does not mean that your schedule needs to be Pinterest or Instagram worthy. It just means that it needs to be simple and clear and easy for the student to understand. We also want it to be something they want to use. So if your child likes a particular theme or character, consider using that for the schedule to make them more interested in it. Ask your student for their input. And schedules don't need to be complicated. You can use a to-do list or post-it notes. You also want to make sure you're referring to the schedule throughout the day. So this should not be something that you just put on the wall and forget about. Refer to that schedule throughout the day so that the student becomes more familiar with it and is able to use it more independently. Include all those different activities like learning, breaks, meals, so that the child knows what to expect, what's coming up next, when they'll get to eat and have breaks. And we also want to make sure that we're crossing off or moving completed activities when they're over. That could be moving them to an all done column, crossing off or erasing. We know that as adults, that really helps us to feel like we're making progress towards our goals, that we're getting things done with our day when we're able to remove those things from our schedule. The next thing to consider when creating a schedule is flexibility. Whether we like it or not, that is the word of 2020. And this is just meant to be a guide for the day. This doesn't have to be followed to a T. You may need to make updates or changes as the day goes on and unexpected things arise. So schedules should be activity-based as much as possible, and that just means that you're going to want to put out those things that need to be completed and not just worry about going by a time-based schedule like 9, 10, 11, 12. However, you will need to include those important synchronous meetings and make sure that students know when they're going to need to log on for things that are happening at a particular time. Like we said, the schedule may need to change daily based on the child's activities. Monday and Tuesday may look different with different types of live sessions and asynchronous activities, or those things that they're completing on their own without interacting with the teacher. It's okay if you get off track. Even as adults, we may not stick to a schedule exactly. It's just that guide. A particular type of schedule may not be working for a student, so don't throw out the whole idea of schedules altogether. Just try something a little bit different. So if your child is erasing their whole whiteboard schedule after the first activity, then you might want to switch to something with post-it notes or written on a piece of paper. We also want to consider order and choice when creating a schedule. So everyone has certain times of day that they work better, and you want to consider those things as well as students' preferences when you're making a schedule. So as much as possible, design things so that more preferred activities happen after things that your child doesn't love to do or has a harder time with. So you also want to do things like, before a hard task, ask your child to complete 2 to 3 quick and easy directions. This helps to build some momentum. So like if a student really doesn't like writing tasks and they're going to have to complete a journal entry, you could say something like, get your materials, your pencil and your notebook. Okay, write your date and name at the top of the paper, and now start with your topic sentence. And having those smaller, easier tasks that your child is more likely to follow directions for at the beginning makes it easier to move into the more difficult task. When possible, offer choices to your child. Things like what materials to use or where they're going to work will encourage them to participate in the schedule and get more things done. Something else to consider is the age of your child. Obviously, things are going to look different for a pre-K student and a high school student. We want to make sure that this schedule is something that your child is capable of using as much as possible on their own. This is going to create more independence. So if you have a student that doesn't read yet, you're going to want to make sure that you have pictures included in the schedule. This could be something like just drawing a quick sketch of what needs to happen. It could be printing out pictures. For my daughter, I took pictures of her doing things that were a part of her schedule and included those so that she could see herself completing different activities. For elementary school students, it's good to use a schedule that can be manipulated, meaning that things can be moved around. So that could be post-it notes or pictures on Velcro so that they can move things into a finished column, or you can move activities if they need to be switched around. For older elementary and middle school students, it can be a checklist where things are crossed off. And for middle and high school students, an agenda can be used to plan activities.